Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, and welcome to today's webinar, Data Governance in 2021, the importance of privacy, cloud data security, and data modernization for data in AWS. My name is JT Cisan, and I'm the Global Senior Vice President of Partners for PKWARE, and we are delighted to have you join us for today's presentation. Our intention is to provide you with valuable knowledge and best practices that you can take back with you and put into practice right away when it comes to managing one of your most precious business assets, your corporate data. So some housekeeping items first. Today's presentation will be available for you for download in PDF form at the end of the presentation. So we encourage you to stick around for the Q&A session and then get your presentation as that's going on. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our first presenter, Tamara Ostakova. Tamara is the Senior Partner Solutions Architect for AWS, and she'll provide you with some foundational insights into AWS services and offerings to help you manage your data governance. Tamara?
Thank you, JT. I'm very glad to present here. Hello, everyone. And I will talk today about how AWS helps organizations migrate data securely to AWS and how your company can address data security, privacy governance, and compliance regulations in AWS. Data migration is the process of moving data from one location to another. So it's different cases like from on-premises to cloud, from cloud to cloud, or hybrid solution use cases. Organizations undertake data migrations for a number of reasons. It's for data backups for disaster recovery or upgrade databases. They might need to establish new data warehouse, a data lake to perform analytics, or merge data from different sources such as file systems, block volumes, databases, IoT, or mobile devices. So customers choose to migrate to the AWS cloud because AWS provides a scalable and secure platform for storing and processing customer data. For example, for data storage, AWS provides high available Amazon Elastic block storage volume to store persistent data. Object storage services such as Amazon S3 to store, retrieve any amount of data at any time from anywhere on the web. Or data that is infrequently used can be moved to Amazon Glacier on demand or automatically with lifecycle policies, which also provides long-term backup and archive at very low cost. Amazon Elastic File System provides a scalable, fully managed Elastic Network file system. For transactional databases, AWS offers AWS RDS, Amazon Aurora. For warehouse, we have Amazon Redshift as a fully managed petabyte scale data warehouse service that are designed for large-scale dataset storage and analytics. AWS provides capabilities to build data lake to run analytics and machine learning on top of data. Also, we have Elastic Computational Platform to process data to generate insights for your business, like Amazon EMR. It's cloud big data platform based on Apache Hadoop and used for processing petabyte scale data, or AWS Lambda, serverless compute service that lets you run code without provisioning or managing servers and scale automatically. Additionally, AWS provides a bunch of machine learning services and IoT services that help to connect devices securely with cloud applications. All these services help customers to store and process data securely and any scale. AWS currently offers multiple methods for secure data movement to AWS cloud, depends on your use case. For offline data transfer use case, you can use AWS Snow Family. Is a petabyte scale data transport services that uses secure devices to transfer large amount of data into AWS cloud. For online data transfer, AWS provides AWS Data Sync is an online data transfer tool that helps accelerate the migration data to Amazon S3 or elastic file service. Also, it provides built-in security capabilities such as encryption or data transit and also data integrity verification. Also, we have Amazon S3 transfer acceleration is a bucket level feature that enables fast and secure transfers of files over long distances between on-premises and S3 buckets. If you want near real-time analytics, then Amazon Kinesis Data Firehose is a good option to capture, transform, and load data streams into AWS data stores. Also, you can use AWS Transfer for SFTP to transfer files in and out of S3. For hybrid cloud storage use cases, AWS Storage Gateway that gives you on-premises access to cloud storage in this case, you can also simplify storage management and reduce cost. And AWS Direct Connect is a cloud service solution that helps establish dedicated private network connection from on-premises to AWS. By determining the security level of your organization, you can determine the AWS services you will need to use for your data migration. There's many regulations to protect customers' data that must be implemented as a part of any solution. And AWS has achieved a number of internationally recognized certifications and accreditations that demonstrate compliance with third-party assurance frameworks. All of those compliance certifications help our customers satisfy compliance requirements around the globe. Security and compliance is a shared responsibility between AWS and the customer. AWS is responsible for security of the cloud, that is protecting the infrastructure that runs all of the services offered in AWS cloud, such as the hardware, software, networking, and facilities that run AWS cloud services. And customer is responsible for security in the cloud. It is for building secure applications. And for that, AWS provides large amount of services to help customers to build secure applications to protect sensitive data and meet regulations compliance. Now I would like to talk about these services. Customer needs to have multiple levels of security, identity and access management, encryption and compliance to secure their data in cloud. So I would like to talk about services that AWS provides for flexible and secure computing environment. For security, for example, you can use Amazon Guard Duty, that is a threat detection service, or AWS Shield for DDoS protection, or AWS Web Application Firewall. Amazon Macie is a fully managed data security and data privacy service that uses machine learning to discover and protect sensitive data in AWS. For identity, we have AWS Identity and Access Management Service and AWS Single Sign-On, Amazon Cloud Directory, or AWS Organizations. Also, AWS provides tools that customers can use to encrypt their data at rest and in transit, such as AWS Certificate Manager provides provision, manage, and deploy public and private SSL and TLS certificates. AWS Key Management Service for key storage and management. Also, you can bring your own key with cloud-based hardware security module support. For example, AWS Secret Manager helps rotate, manage, and retrieve database credentials or API keys. So now you can use Secret Manager APIs instead of hard code sensitive information in plain text. For compliance needs, you can use AWS Artifact and provides on-demand, no-cost access to AWS security and compliance reports. And AWS Cloud Trail service enables governance, compliance, operational, and risk auditing of your AWS account. AWS Audit Manager that continuously audits your AWS usage. So I just listed some of services that AWS provides for flexible and secure computing environment. Also, AWS provides more services for infrastructure protection, incident response, detection, and security. In addition to our own services, many of our partners add a lot of value in areas such as application monitoring, operational intelligence, and alerts, auditing, and the sensitive data protection. Our partners inherit the best practices that we have developed to satisfy the needs of our customers, and they have deep expertise to help you to migrate your data risk-free and in the shortest amount of time and protect customer data. Now I would like to introduce our partner, IBM and partner PKWARE, who are part of our ecosystem in data governance. IBM and PKWARE are two of our strategic partners focused in data security, data privacy, and data governance area. Together with our partners, we have jointly helped many customers in data protection and governance. PKWARE is a provider of data software security solutions that enhance and complement an AWS suite of services. You will hear more from them today. And IBM is a provider of strategic data security consulting services. Dinesh Nagarajan is a global partner leader for IBM Security. We'll tell you more about services. And Dinesh, please welcome.
Thanks, Tamara. Thanks for that, and thanks for the very enlightening, presentation on AWS services available for migrating data to the cloud. While we looked at the different number of options in AWS for clients to move data to the cloud and how to secure and protect and operate the data on the cloud, I'd like to take a step back to look at what's the CISO perspective for cloud data security and governance. Data migration, as Tamara said, is increasing in velocity. Every client is looking to deploy data, be it structured or unstructured data. It's the significant amount of volumes in cloud is increasing. So that is an interesting change in the landscape. So I touched on the velocity of increasing. So what does this mean for a data security standpoint? So if you look at historically, data security has always been looked at controls being deployed to protect data within the infrastructure and the applications space. And also typically you'll find what typically clients call out as sensitive and confidential data. And that's one of the data types that the most CISOs are worried about. And also that's the data that most threat actors are after for most of the business. Typically the sensitive and confidential data is historically being something that's hosted in a highly secure setup, and I think the data is typically locked down or the infrastructure is locked down and a limited number of access. Now, in the last few years, we know that ecosystem is changing. Data itself has become a sort of a currency for business. They started looking at data to perform analytics, to better understand their customers, to do analysis on how well the products are doing. How will they look to forecast their business, and also make a lot of strategy and planning based on the data that the business generates. So the data is being repurposed to improve business, but also transform their business. That being said, there's a number of disruptive capabilities that has come for business organization to leverage data. It could be artificial intelligence, machine learning, and there's some of the technology that even Tamara talked about, what AWS provides today. Well, all these options are available. Businesses are looking to deploy data that's being generated out of their core business into in the cloud to being able to understand and perform analytics. So the data landscape itself, what previously historically used to be secured in a limited number of systems, is fundamentally changed. Data has become a very pervasive component, and this includes sensitive and confidential data too. So you now are looking at a no perimeter landscape where confidential sensitive data will be deployed or used to support business. for their transformation or the way they are transforming and their way of interacting with their clients. So this has a significant impact, potentially significant impact on the security for that data. And also, more importantly, in most cases, it will impact compliance. It will definitely impact privacy in most geographies, as we've seen that there is going to be an increasing number of privacy regulations that'll be rolled out. So this is one of the key things that chief information security officers in an organization have to look at. How would this impact, given this change of rate of change from business and using data, how that will impact from a security perspective on protecting sensitive and confidential data, but also to make sure their compliance posture is not disrupted. So while we look at the changing data landscape, what this basically means from a security standpoint. One of the things we in IBM have been working with our partners as well, we've been talking about is the data-centric approach. If you look at traditional security, cybersecurity, even when clients talk about data security itself, it's typically controls either deployed on an infrastructure or a user or an application layer. It's never on the data, but it's everything else that hosts the data or has access to the data, which is fine in a traditional data landscape. But in the changed, newer data landscape where data is everywhere, you will have to look at a data-centric approach. This is a point of view from IBM where security teams are no more in control of their infrastructure, and security and business are no more looking to do it. The cloud service providers like AWS provide a number of capabilities that security teams should and must consider leveraging, but also look at what are the solutions or what are the capabilities they need to do to protect the data itself, rather than looking at controls that are being deployed at an application or an infrastructure layer. And that's fundamentally what the data-centric approach is all about. It's fundamentally is about increasing your focus on the security of the data itself, not just the infrastructure and applications. So while the approach is there, I think one of the things that we've been talking to clients about, especially the CISOs, is don't look at the move to the cloud as a threat to how security's role should change. This is an opportunity for security to change the role from being a gatekeeper, a compliance organization looking to do things that ticks in the box, to an opportunity where they can change a role into more of an enabler for business. Fundamentally, the data migration to cloud presents a challenge and an opportunity for the CISO. It presents a challenge in that they have to look to understand what is the impact of the migration to the cloud. What type of data is being moved to the cloud? How is a business? What is the business plan in moving to the cloud? What is that they are planning to use? And if there is an impact to the privacy for the business. And it becomes an opportunity in the case, while they have all of these challenges, it presents an opportunity that they could look to see, now that clients' business is moving to the cloud, how do I take advantage of what's available in the cloud? The cloud is, the AWS being a very good example, it provides a lot of capabilities out of the box, which means that these capabilities are engineered in the cloud. In most contexts, it's effectively available in a very short period of time. So you move from a CAPEX model to a more an operating model, which helps to leverage the capability in the cloud. This also helps the leaders to go away and say, here's an opportunity for me to raise a business case. I always wanted to look to deploy a strategic solution to protect data. While the data is being moved to the cloud, I can help make that as a business case to grow investments on deploying a strategic data security solution that not just protects data on the cloud, but also protects data on your on-premise as well. And I think this is a very key aspect where security CISOs needs to look at how I'm going to transform the organization into someone who's more looking to do a gatekeeper role into an enabler role. And then from an IBM point of view, I think it's always something that we recommend that the cloud providers like AWS will always keep strengthening their capabilities in the cloud. However, the cloud itself is not going to protect the data. It's a responsibility of the customer to understand their data taxonomy, to classify the data, and actually then leverage the right kind of capabilities to protect them. This also is very important that security is not in a constant catch-up game when it comes to the cloud. This is an opportunity for them to go engage with business to better understand the plans for business and moving data to the cloud, and put up a capability and a mechanism in a way that the data will be protected and secured before the data is moved in its full scale into the cloud. And that's a key thing, because once the data is moved to the cloud, retrospective security is necessarily always successful. So that's a key element that a move to the cloud presents a great opportunity for the CISO to change the way the security plays a role in the organization. So what would be looking the guiding principles for protecting data in the cloud? Here are a few considerations that every CISO should look to for before they go in and actually deploy a solution or looking to implement one. The first one is a culture of data centricity. By this we mean that I think they need to understand all aspects of data, from life cycle to understanding the taxonomy of the data and how that will impact the business. Ideally, it would be great to have an association of the risk appetite within the business to the data taxonomy level. So the implications of a data breach for any particular data type is very well understood, and that kind of drives the kind of risk mitigation or protection measures that you need to look at it. Fundamentally, in other words, it could be you may have different taxonomy of confidential, highly confidential, or sensitive. Every business uses a different taxonomy models, but you would want to have a consistent way of protecting all data that's classified to a particular taxonomy, because that has a certain impact to the business and may result in a high level of exposure to risk. And then we talked about the leveraging the native capability, but also I think the key thing is aligning protection mechanism with risk, which is a very key thing, that the data that needs protection is effectively a key data for the business. You could very well, in some cases, look to protect all the data that you host and manage, but in most cases, it may not necessarily make sense. And also, there is a cost, not just a commercial cost, but there are also an operating cost that will come in if you're trying to protect all the data. So I think it's very important that the CISOs have the capability to discover, classify, identify the risk, and then deploy the kind of controls and monitor once the data has been deployed. The other very important thing is a gapless protection. Protecting data has moves through different life cycles, right from the origination to being used and then being stored, and also being in backup and archives. So the data protection strategy, or the data-centric security, should consider having controls and capabilities that addresses all of those different use cases throughout the life cycle. So what does the data-centric security will look like? Here's a sort of a snapshot view of, from an IBM perspective, what we counsel clients when they want to go down a data-centric view. There are different forms and views of how a data-centric security be done. This is more like how IBM will counsel clients to approach it. It really forms as 3 steps as part of the approach. The first one is the obvious one, is to understand your data. You got to have a mechanism to first discover your data, understand where the data is located, be it structured or unstructured, and then being able to classify the data to an agreed taxonomy. Then there is a very clear understanding of the baseline of your data landscape. And that helps drive understanding what are the current controls that are deployed on the data based on the taxonomy. If those controls are adequate in protecting their data. If there is a gap in those controls, then you would want to pick up a strategic solution to protect the data and make sure that the risk is mitigated. So securing your data is a very key thing, and it's part of the most important element of data-centric security. Once the data is secured, it's not the end game there. You got to monitor your data. There is always changes that happens in the business on use of the data and how they repurpose the data. And also there is a change that happens in where the data is being shared, if it is shared through applications, or who are the different types of users who have access to the data. This information is very important, not just from a security threats and insider threat perspective, but also important from a compliance standpoint, from a privacy or SOX or PCI DSS, any one of the aspect of it. So this is the overall three-step strategy. If someone wants to, if the client wants to look at a data-centric security perspective, it's very simple, but it's something that most clients, from our perspective, don't necessarily always practice data security. I think that the change in the data landscape has pushed a lot of clients to start looking at deploying controls on the data itself, rather than having a slightly fairy approach, which typically most clients follow today. So, what are the priorities for CISOs today to support business in this journey? Here's something that we put down to articulate on some of the areas that they need to start focusing on as quickly as possible. To start with, I think the most important one is skilled workforce. If your clients are moving data to AWS, you need consultants and engineers who are skilled in AWS, who are able to understand what the native capability are, how do I integrate and migrate the data to AWS and protect the data in AWS. Understanding the architecture and the principles that are required is very important in order to be able to support the journey. And then you really need to invest into a cloud-supported solutions. So we talked about earlier about how typically clients don't necessarily always look into data security solutions, but that's changing. Two key drivers being privacy requirements and mandatory privacy requirements, but also moving to the cloud will change the posture in regards to how the data is being used. Having a strategic solution that supports more than one cloud is a very key thing. From our analysis, we noticed that a lot of clients are typically present on at least 3 public clouds. And AWS being the leading one would be the first place to start, but you will also possibly require support for supporting multiple clouds. While moving to the cloud and deploying solutions, you need to adopt, the security teams needs to adopt a SecOps or a DevSecOps perspective. The mechanism is all about trying to do a shift left perspective. Businesses are now, as they're moving to data, are also leveraging the cloud's capability for speed and agility in deploying applications, but also modernizing their application landscape, which also, in turn modernizes your data landscape. And DevOps is effectively the popular and probably the most preferred way of, making change, delivering change for application or the data landscape that most businesses are going towards. So security needs to adopt the same approach and being part of the journey, rather than playing an outsider role and trying to assist or help in a different way. And that's a very, very key thing. I think security needs to look at how do I integrate the standard security SecOps process, be delivering change or design, and being integrated with the way business delivers change in the cloud. And this is also an opportunity to integrate as more controls on data security are deployed. It's an opportunity to integrate the data security control use with the actual data governance processes within the business. So the business, when they are, when the data stewards and others actually operate and giving access to different part of the business for whatever the data types are, they can take advantage of the controls to make sure that the wider access or open access to data does not expose the business to unnecessary risk. There is a fair amount of risk mitigation that's built into it while they enable more access to it. We talked about holistic data protection, and that's a very key thing, and it requires the capability to do lifecycle protection, but also discover and classify the data on an ongoing basis. And it really varies between different businesses in different industry sectors and how they purpose the data and do it. but I think it's very important to look at a holistic data protection with automation as much as possible. And DevSecOps kind of an approach can significantly help in automating some of these controls and making it simpler. And finally, the most important thing that the CISO have to prepare is to start looking to managing privacy. Data migration to cloud could also mean, in some cases, migration of data, not just to the cloud, but also migration across business, and in some cases across geos and international boundaries. And that's basically how business operates today. Most global businesses would like to have the freedom and the flexibility and also the agility to leverage data from different parts of the business. And privacy is a very important element that needs to be managed, and it'll have a big impact on privacy and needs to be managed from that context. So being prepared, which means you have the wherewithal from a technology perspective and a process perspective to manage the required privacy, regulatory requirements to protect the end user or the end customer's PII data is very critically important. We've seen a trend of most of the clients that IBM work with where they are considering deploying in the near future or already in the journey of delivering privacy controls. When GDPR came in Europe, I think the initial fear was to try and comply with as much as possible without deploying technology. But right now, I think we've seen that most security teams in this security leadership is now looking more proactively. Let's deploy control and be on top of privacy rather than trying to avoid, complying with privacy. So that's some of the key priorities on supporting business when data is moving to the cloud. So I think what I was trying to talk about is primarily from a CISO perspective. I'll talk a little bit about IBM security software and services. So if you look at this is our strategy from an IBM security standpoint, and we're trying to align our strategy in the way our clients are changing and their priorities are changing. So if you look at the top side, are the key client security challenges that our clients face today, be it cloud security. We talked a lot about that. A lot of clients are hit with advanced threats, and that's something that most clients are struggling to address. And then there is always the compliance and privacy element that we talked about as well. And there is a massive skills shortage today in the industry. There's a stat that I saw. There was more than 2 million open jobs in the security space. And as the ecosystem is changing in the number of disruptive capabilities are coming in, more pertinent in a post-pandemic world or in a pandemic world where everyone is mobile and everything is remote, it's also very important that the security elements of that changes as well. So fundamentally, we help clients in 4 key areas. One is to help them put together a strategy in this changing landscape, privacy and data security elements. And we help clients protect their data, and that's where we partner with PKWARE and their capabilities in protecting data. And also we have partnered with AWS in bringing in the kind of skills and management for deploying security and managing security threats in an AWS environment. And finally, the modernizing element of it, as much as clients are looking to support, security teams are looking to support their business landscape is changing. They're modernizing the data landscape, they're modernizing their applications, and the whole infrastructure modernization is done by adopting cloud. We strongly feel that the security also have to modernize their approach in how they protect their clients and be more in line with the way the business transformation is happening. So just to give you a small snapshot on what IBM Security and Software and Services does and how we partner with AWS and PKWARE. So that's pretty much from me, and I'll now hand it over to the Senior Vice President, JT Cezon from PKWARE, and he'll walk through about PKWARE solution and actually maybe touch on some of the challenges that I touched on the CISO perspective and how they can help address those problems. JT, over to you.
Thank you, Dinesh. Thank you for that informative section there. It's great. PKWARE and IBM, as Dinesh mentioned, are strategic partners, and this data-centric approach that Dinesh has described hopefully in my presentation here, we'll be able to articulate how we can instantiate that from a software perspective, as well as the regulation and compliance issues that Tamara brought up. PKWARE is also an advanced technology partner with AWS, and we have competencies in the data and analytics area. So we're very pleased and excited to be here today and to walk you folks through what we're able to do here at PKWARE. So at the core of what we do, PKWARE is a software solution that we help companies address, the privacy and security challenges that both Tamara and Dinesh brought up. What we're trying to do at the heart of our heart is help companies be responsible data stewards. That not yes, there are laws and areas where you need to be compliant, but we want to make sure that we can help you do that efficiently and effectively as you're dealing with personal identifiable information. So there are three components to the PKWARE offering. The first is our detection capabilities, and what we're trying to achieve here, what we achieve here, is to help companies find sensitive data in unstructured, structured, and semi-structured repositories. And so we do this through discovery and classification. We're able, which is more of a kind of a security-centric approach, but to address privacy requirements as well. We can do the inventory of identities and requirements. And a popular requirement from privacy today is the processing of data subject access requests, these DSARs, where any of us are able to now go to any company and ask them, how much information do you have on us, or how much information do you have on our family members? And they're by law have to comply within 30 or so days to show you how much information they've gathered about you, and you can choose to delete that information or not. But that's a business process that is kicked off first by understanding what data is located in those repositories. The second is the protection and remediation aspects of our services. So what we're helping you achieve here is to be able to remediate your sensitive data to make sure to remediate from exposure for risk and compliance obligations. So this means implementing things like masking or obfuscation to de-identify personal data that we've discovered in the first pillar here, to really focus on encrypting at the element level, not at the file level, but very targeted encryption. And then again, from a privacy perspective, track cross-border transfers, track third-party disclosures. Where is this information flowing, and who is it flowing to? That's the protection components that PKWARE offers. And then, as Dinesh pointed out, this data isn't static; it's continually moving, and we need to understand and track and give CISOs the visibility on, how and where the sensitive data is being accessed. And so, things like in GDPR, notification on retention limits. Do I still have to, maintain compliance on this certain file or set of data? Well, we can tell you, how long the retention is on those systems. And then, alert on compliance violations or inappropriate use. So if, Terry is accessing, a specific database from 9 to 6, on the weekdays, and then that database contains sensitive data, and then all of a sudden on a weekend, Terry's credentials are being used to access the data on a Saturday or Sunday that's out of bounds from the way Terry works. Well, we can alert on that and say, has Terry's credentials been compromised, or is Terry just working overtime, to get work done in preparation for the next week? These kinds of alerts can be integrated into your network administration tools, because we're very focused on the sensitive data components that you have in your company. So, Dinesh aptly talked about this helping CISOs achieve, business goals. And in our experience in working with IBM and implementing these solutions, we see that this is done through a harmonious balance of, discovery and remediation. If you're doing discovery, it needs to be fast, accurate, needs to cover a lot of platforms and be able to scale to these petabyte levels. And then when you talk about the remediation, it has to be flexible, using the right kind of techniques for the right situation, integrated into workflow. Users don't want to be bothered, and having to classify things. It can't disrupt their daily routine. Obviously, it has to be secure, and then intelligent, always learning, and that's an important component that I'll talk about here as we move to the next slide. I talked about the three pillars of PKWARE, and I apologize, this is somewhat of an eye chart here, but what I'd like to get across are three main things. If you look at the center box, PKWARE offers a solution not only on the server side, but on the client side. So we're one of the few vendors in the market available today that can make sure that the data that resides on your mobile phone, your laptop or computers, we're all moving to more of a mobile workforce, that data is governed correctly, as well as all the servers where data's traditionally been stored on premises, or as we talked about, in the cloud, with our partnership with AWS. And then the second component that I want to call out here is you see many different logos. And so it's very typical when we go into an enterprise to find that obviously these enterprises, many of you on the phone have invested in technologies over the years, and you don't want to throw away those technologies. Those technologies have valuable data that can help, again, our business become more agile and move forward, but we need to govern them appropriately. So we've written integrations, and we have done work with many other companies out there to extend the life of those and enhance those technologies. So an example is, on the IBM mainframe, a lot of PKWARE work is done in protecting and making sure user access is managed on an IBM mainframe. And then, IBM Guardium as an example. So, extending, platform coverage and minimizing false positives is another big requirement that we see. And I'll show you about that as we move forward. And then finally, what you see a lot of arrows, and these arrows are to denote that PKWARE's automation capabilities. Many of these tasks in the past, in the most recent past, have been manual, taking things that, weeks and in some cases months. Now with PKWARE, you can implement in a matter of hours and days. PKWARE is available as a SaaS offering in AWS or as an AMI, so you can stand it up quickly, link it to an AWS service, and then run your detection. You're off and running. So the solution is built for easy installation and configuration, and these pre-integrations mean that you can achieve almost as close to a plug-and-play solution in the enterprise market as out there. So this time to value, this time to being able to get the optics that you need are what we're about. Yeah. So I talked about the discovery, and Dinesh talked about it as well, as kind of the first step that customers take on their data-centric journey. And if you're evaluating a data discovery solution, I would just say, think about these characteristics. The ability to operate on multiple platforms. Again, many of you have a plethora of technologies that you purchased, and you're looking to the future, moving to the cloud, looking to modernize your architecture. So, so one that operates on on multiple platforms, both in an unstructured, semi-structured, and structured environment. Ability to scan data at scale. Many of our customers are large financial, healthcare, retail customers that are doing petabytes of data, multi-petabytes, 30, 50 types of petabyte data isn't uncommon. And then this idea again of minimizing the number of false positives and false negatives. The way we're able to do that is through this last area, through the incorporation of AI and ML techniques. So we're always pushing the envelope on new data platforms, but also increasing the capabilities of our learning, our machine learning, so that you can take advantage of that. And so this is an example of how our AI and ML techniques work, right? So this is just a regular email that you'd receive that's littered with personal identifiable information. And so our data discovery techniques go way beyond regular expressions. So we actually use context. Our machines use context. So Jimmy Carr is obviously a name, but when it comes to 9-digit numbers, is this a social security number? Is this an account number? Is this a check number? Well, we're able to do that because our AI and ML looks at context. So the word social security implies that the next digits after that are a social security number, and the same for a check number. Or if it's a street address, we see the word street and a city and a state, and we know that that is an address. So again, things like phone numbers. Phone numbers are particularly interesting because many of our customers receive phone numbers in so many different formats. A 1 in front of the 408, no dashes, dots instead of dashes, no dashes or dots. So there's many different ways that this information comes in, and we're able, because of AI and ML, be able to understand what that is, and then again pass this low false positive rate on to you as a customer. And so optics are key for a CISO or a CIO who's responsible for the migration of data. And so hand in hand in working with someone like IBM, Dinesh's team, these are the kinds of data that we can show up and identify those gaps that Dinesh talked about. What systems do I have scanned? Which ones have sensitive information that are protected, that aren't protected? Who users are accessing these systems? What countries? Again, so I can talk about laws that are specific, data laws that are centric to specific countries. So this is the kind of information that we're able to gather and then show up in reports like this. So then I talked about the classification and remediation capabilities. So the first type is in a production environment. So when you think about PKWARE's classification capabilities, think of it as analogous to that top secret stamp that you see on a government agency's manila folder. It says for your eyes only, and what this creates is a behavior from a user that they have to be cognizant of who they share that information with, where it's shared, and this begins to shape how an organization deals with its data. Well, we do this electronically against not just documents but databases and emails to make sure that users are performing or have access to the right information so that they can get their jobs done, but they're also cognizant of who and how they can share this information. And so our ability to classify and then manage user rights, which means that Stan here on the left has authorization to see this data that's decrypted, where Frank on the right does not have authorization, so Frank will see the encrypted value. So really understanding how users need to access data so that they can get their jobs done. Again, back to Dinesh's comments about helping CISOs become helping accelerate the business forward. So the second component is non-production environments. So, the areas where Dinesh's team, and IBM can help you is, using the right kind of encryption or protection mechanisms for the right kind of data. So in this case, in a non-production environment, many times we see, a dev test environment where, an internal DevOps team that Dinesh talked about, needs to create an application. Well, they need to functional test it. They need to load test the application, and not, in the recent past, that was being done with real live data, with yours and my information, unencrypted or unprotected, because it was done inside of a company. It was thought to be trusted. Well, because of the compliance and data governance regulation, companies can't do that anymore. But you need to get the applications tested. So that's where, masking or obfuscation comes into play, where we'll mask, credit card numbers, in this case, Xing out the middle 6 digits of the credit card, so it looks like a Visa, American Express, or MasterCard credit card, so that you can mimic how the application will work in those environments, and still protecting end user privacy rights. So, these are real live examples, and let me give you another one in the next slide here of a joint customer that we have. So this is a very large insurance company, and that old adage of, what happens if this person gets hit by a bus, what do we do? Well, this person actually did get injured. They didn't get hit by a bus, but there was somebody who was manually responsible for discovering where, sensitive information like phone numbers and credit cards, checking reports to make sure that user privacy was maintained. Well, it forced the organization, when this person was injured, to find an automated solution. So with PKWARE, we actually found that the gains in automating this large insurance company's sensitive data was, upwards of 1,200%. And so, this is very typical. That was an AWS data lake running S3 analytics on Redshift, but also they had on-premises data running on SQL, Oracle, Greenplum, and SAS. And so, again, I mentioned, the scalability components. This is at 5 petabytes. That was a combination of structured and unstructured data. So, these are the things that, IBM, PKWARE, and AWS can help you achieve. And then, I'll finish off with the next slide here. Dinesh talked about this increasing because of, this COVID environment. We've all worked at home, accessing data remotely. Well, what about these endpoints? We're on our laptops and our phones now, accessing this corporate data. How do we manage and do that responsibly? And this is the other component that PKWARE offers, is, being able to manage these endpoints and manage access, to data that, that's being accessed via on AWS. And so, so we're excited to be able to offer these solutions to you. We know many of you are thinking about these, or tackling these challenges in real time, and we're helping together. AWS, IBM, and PKWARE are helping address these critical situations for you. So that is my last slide, and I just want to thank you for attending today, and we can move to our Q&A session. I'd like to remind you that you could put your questions in the chat, please. I can see that the presentation has already been put in the handout section of your of the GoToWebinar panel here. So let me see. We have some questions that have come up here. So the first one is for AWS. Tamara, the question is, what services does AWS offer to migrate data from on-premises to the cloud? I know you mentioned that, but could you reiterate that? It says PKWARE does not offer that. That doesn't look like PKWARE offers this, but what would AWS do?
Yeah, it's a good question. Thank you. So I will cover this question. So AWS provides, as I mentioned already, several services that help customers to migrate data. Is it like AWS Snowball and it's petabyte scale data transport service, or Amazon S3 transfer acceleration is a bucket level feature. For hybrid solution, AWS Storage Gateway that also gives on-premises access to the cloud storage. Also, there is two more services that I did not mention today that can be very useful. It is if you migrate data to, for example, to Redshift or databases, so you can use AWS schema conversion tool and AWS database migration service. These two services also very helpful to migrate to data, and there is a lot of benefits of using these services. And also we have our partner solution that also help you to migrate your data to AWS Cloud. You can find on our website, and other partners like system integrator partners also help you to your migration efforts.
That's great. Thank you, Tamara. Actually, that's a good segue to this next question, which is how does a company take the first step for a data security or privacy project?
Yeah, thanks, JT, for the question. So I think one of the things that we recommend clients, and depending on the maturity of their data security and where they are, they need to start looking at defining requirements. If they are in a place where they have a better understanding of the taxonomy and they would have a clear understanding of the requirements to protect data. But if it's if it's an early journey to go to the cloud, then one of the things we recommend that is to look at a cloud security strategy and possibly a data security or a data protection strategy that needs to be looked at. The strategy should address how data will be classified and what are the elements that needs to be looked at for protecting the data, and how the governance of the data will be brought together. That's a very key thing. And as along with this, they also need to consider what are the technology controls that they need to deploy in order to make sure that the security risk posture is not significantly impacted as a result of migration of data. So that's the what we would recommend from an IBM standpoint, the clients take the journey.
Fantastic. Well, that was a great finish, Dinesh. We're at the top of the hour, and we want to be respectful of everyone's time. Thank everybody for attending today's webinar. Thank you, Tamara and Dinesh, for your presentations today. And there'll be some. Please contact AWS, IBM, and PKWARE if you'd like to schedule a follow-up. There'll be information that'll be sent to you proactively as well. Thank you all very much.